Okay, guys, we're here with a couple of former Grinnellians. Want to introduce yourselves, fellas, and tell us where you're from originally and what brought you to Grinnell, and then what brought you here to Boston. Okay.
Do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Neil. I'm from Bangalore, India, and Grinnell class of 2022. What led me to going to Grinnell was actually wanting to be in a rural setting. I'd heard about Grinnell being a small school in rural Iowa. I had known someone who had graduated from there, so having those conversations about the close student and teacher relationships definitely motivated me as well. But to be very frank, I didn't have too much of an idea of what I was getting into, and I am happy to say I was pleasantly surprised and happy with my experience by the end of it.
I'm Brian Goodell, from Minnesota originally. Well, grew up in Minnesota, and I ended up at Grinnell because essentially my mom went to Grinnell, and so when I was thinking about schools where I wanted to end up, she was like, you should go and look at this place, and I was like, I don't know, like middle of Iowa, I don't know if it'll really work for me. But she insisted that I just come and visit, so it wasn't that far of a drive. We went down for a weekend and kind of visited, and I wasn't visiting through the team or anything. I just visited randomly, and all the people that I met were super cool and really fun. And I remember sitting in the dining hall with my mom knew somebody from work whose son was going to Grinnell at the time. And so I just sat with him and his friends, and the conversation was just really fun, and I was I want to keep staying here and chatting with these people, and so I everyone that I met was kind of like that.
So were you a pretty good runner in high school?
No, not at all. I wasn't on varsity at all, and
really,
and we didn't have a very good team. Yeah,
man.
No, I started doing cross country my senior year of high school, and then I didn't even get a full track season because there was the first practice of track, and then COVID happened.
Oh, man.
So I did not.
That's
I didn't really run at all.
What a story.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we're excited to have you here. This is what we're hoping to do on the trip, is to meet with alums, and just happen to have a couple former runners, which is fantastic. So when you had the Grinnell experience, and people talk about the Grinnell experience, I'd like you to share a Grinnell experience, whether it was as a runner from a particular class. You might think about a particular professor, that might have impacted you, or even a moment, in a class that it was that light bulb moment for you, and you realized, wow, this place is really special, and I'm glad to be here. So share that with us. I'm just trying to get across to people how powerful the Grinnell experience is in so many different ways.
I will talk if I don't mind. So, for me, it was a experience in a class with a professor. It was a class called Religion is Everywhere, taught by Henry Reeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this was my second semester, first year, and this was actually not a class that was open to first years, but I had just read up the syllabus online and found it very interesting, and emailed the professor, and he said, sure, you can join my class, I'll waive the requirement fee. So I had been interested in sociology and anthropology, and that was where I was leaning towards in terms of declaring a major, but I think this class really solidified that interest in wanting to learn about how society functions and how humans group together and try to have this shared communities, and it's very intrinsic part about being human. Religion is Everywhere, as the name suggests, this class taught us about despite organized religion being less prevalent in society, we tend to group together in very similar manners in terms of how we build our identities, such as with sport or with a certain type of academia where we really follow those same patterns as people do in traditional religions, and that really opened my mind to a lot of things in terms of the examples we went through with that class. And I had an especially good interaction one time with the professor. As a first year, I was still learning how to be disciplined, and I really enjoyed the class, and I would do the readings and come to class with this enthusiasm, but we had to write these very long papers for the class, and I was pretty bad about sitting down and dedicating that time to write a 10-page paper. And I remember there was one time I was late on a submission, and instead of scolding me about it or being mad at me, my professor just told me he'd like to have a chat after class, and really helped me brainstorm my ideas for what I wanted to do, and helped me realize that what I had envisioned for writing that paper about was valuable, as I was questioning it myself. And that moment stuck with me beyond just that assignment or that class, because he really said things that motivated me and made me feel a lot more confident about the ideas I had, and exploring those.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
That's funny because one of the first things that popped in my mind was also a Professor Reed's class, but I'll switch it up and talk about so I took international political economy with Professor Driscoll, with Barry, and I was a poli-sci computer science double major, and I really like the kind of political science aspect of having an idea and defending your stance and having that kind of conversation. But I was not super interested in the actual kind of on the ground, how policy happens and how it affects the world. And I was not interested in economics at all. And so I took political international economy, and I was it'll be a credit. It might be kind of interesting, whatever. And I hadn't taken any other classes with Professor Driscoll yet, and so I was sure, I'll meet him. He has a cool Irish accent. That'll be kind of fun. And I started taking the class, and it was just so fascinating to see how much of the world, even just in the relatively small sphere of politics and economics, is interconnected and affects everything. How people thinking that the US dollar is a good thing to have means that Americans can get lots of loans, which drives up the price of housing in America, which means that fewer people can afford their own houses, and people are stuck in cycles of renting, and stuff like that is just I never would have thought of that. And then I really was enjoying the class. I felt like I could kind of ask questions that might be kind of silly questions. And so I felt like I got along really well with Professor Driscoll, and so I asked him to be my advisor. And then there have been several times now where I've asked him for advice on just life stuff. When I was my senior year, I was debating what I wanted to do after graduation, where I wanted to go. I was thinking about applying for this fellowship. I was maybe I should get an actual job, maybe I should try to go to grad school. And he gave me, I think, one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten, which was just don't be afraid to bounce. If you try something and you don't like it, it's it's your 20s. Just try something else. Try something else. Don't be afraid to figure out what you really like doing, what you want to do with your life. You don't have to have everything solved. And I think that's the kind of thing where if my parents had told me that or something, I probably would have been oh, that's silly, I'm not going to listen to them. But this is somebody who had taught me a lot in actual political economy of how the world works. And I was maybe he's onto something, and I think that he definitely was. And when I went back to Grinnell this past spring to go to one of the home track meets, I got lunch with him, and we walked around the track meet and with his son and cheered on a bunch of the people. And I was explaining to his son how the throws events worked, and why they didn't just try to throw the ball the hammer or the shot put a normal ball, why they had to spin around and stuff. So yeah.
So a question I have is 20 years from now, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? I mean, a lot of times kids are asked, when you grow up, what do you want to be? But shouldn't the question be, who do you want to be? 20 years from now, where do you see yourselves? And how did Grinnell have an effect on that?
I think I have something to say.
Okay. I can also do it if you need more time to think.
Yeah, and you have some
I
thoughts?
can if you're
Go for it.
Okay. I hope that in 20 years I am the kind of person who feels like excited about what I'm doing and feels like I don't like look back on life and wish that I think done things differently, obviously. But I think like one of the things that I really like about myself and that I think Grinnell helped me with is that I like have lots of things that I'm interested in, and I don't feel like I have to choose one of those things and make that my entire life. Like at Grinnell, I ran, but I also like did like swing dancing and contra dancing, and I like I went and like volunteered with like some of the dogs at the animal shelter, like run them around, like just to like help walk the dogs and tire them out, and like I feel like I had lots of different interests, like computer science, political science, and I didn't feel like I had to just choose one and be like a person who did running or a person who did computer science. I was like a person, and then I also did lots of other things, and so I've been trying to like keep that alive after graduation. We went salsa dancing once, and like I've been trying to like keep multiple interests of mine alive, like I was able to do at Grinnell. And so I feel like that is the kind of person I want to be, someone who has lots of things that they're interested in, likes doing those things, doesn't feel like they have to just be someone who does their job or someone who exists.
That's wonderful. Neil?
I definitely relate a lot to what Brian said, which is having this desire to develop holistically and keep that lifelong learning going is something that Grinnell imparted in me, and not something I could have necessarily seen if I had gone to another school and gotten very niche about my interests and my peer group and my focus. So yeah, I won't completely copy your answer, but to answer the initial question of where do I see myself 20 years from now, might be a bit of a vague answer, but I really want to be a community builder, being someone who is looked up to, respected in one's community is the driving force for me, as say becoming really rich might be for someone else, or be having a really prestigious job might be for someone. And at Grinnell, I really enjoyed building community. One of my fondest memories from Grinnell was the summer before I graduated. I had stayed on campus and I was doing a summer map, and I just remember that the community that was there over the summer, it was a smaller community, so we all got to know each other very well. And I used to love having these bonfires and calling people over and cooking together with people. I'd be meeting new people and really just bringing people together and having that community, cherishing new human relationships. It's something that Grinnell really taught me how to do well, and I try to continue going on into my adulthood.
Well, what a joy, you guys, to have you here and get to see you again. And I should also mention that Dr. Scott's sitting here, Keisho Scott. I'm staying with her and her husband while I'm in Boston. And we'll be heading out in a couple days, heading towards Bear Run, Pennsylvania. Being a Frank Lloyd Wright fanatic, need to go to Falling Water and Kentucky Knob, which is just a few miles from Falling Water. Two very influential homes by Wright. And then heading to Lexington. So we'll be having lots more videos and hopefully more interviews. But I just want to thank you guys for not just coming and having dinner with us, but for making Grinnell better when you were there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.